Welcome everyone to episode 8 of the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and this episode is going to be pretty interesting. Not only is this my first female guest here on the Phoenix Report, but this person isn't a musician or really in the music business at all. If you guys heard, my first episode, that episode 1A, the intro, where I kind of explained who I am and what this is all about, that, not every episode of this podcast is necessarily going to be music related. I'm also a big wrestling fan, which is actually how I met this person in the first place. She and I were really good friends in high school. We went to St. Petersburg Catholic High School, class of 2003. And, she and I always kind of bonded. She was really big into wrestling, and so was I. And, we would hang out and go to pay-per-views a lot. And so we had just kept in touch and been really good friends over the years. And she eventually went on to be a backstage producer for TNA Wrestling while attending Eckerd College. And, she and I, we kind of lost touch a couple of years ago, but we recently reconnected. I knew once we reconnected that, once I started this podcast, that she would be a really good guest for it, and I would love to have her on some of the reaction pieces that I've had with some of my other friends that you may have heard.
But I definitely wanted to get her on here as a one-on-one interview. So please welcome to the Phoenix Report, former TNA Backstage Producer, Jennifer Kerstner.
Thank you, Jack. It's great to be here.
Cool. I mean, this is, this was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing. I wasn't really sure, I didn't have necessarily a ton of things prepared and answered, but that's usually been how we've always been anyway. We just talk about stuff, get on random tangents, and obviously you and I are big wrestling fans, and it was always curious to me, like, and I kind of have this conversation with my wife quite a bit. She was like, why are you into wrestling? What is the deal with that? And I just kind of explained it to her, and I think she gets it. And she would always joke, she's like, I can't imagine there are any women Jack, that are into this. I'm like, well, actually.
I'm a girly girl, but at the same time, I have a lot of tomboy tendencies.
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I've known you, you've always been into it, and that's always been one of the things where it's like, you don't really find a lot of girls who are like openly wrestling fans. I mean, there are a few you'll find here and there, but it's like, but for anyone listening, maybe you could explain to them, like, what makes, a young girl like yourself, kind of interested in wrestling besides of course, good looking, athletic dudes on TV.
Actually, that was never something that even crossed my mind until much later. For me, it was, I was going to Keswick Christian School at the time, and I was bullied a lot. And I didn't have much of a backbone.
Right.
And then one night, I saw an episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, I'd seen wrestling here and there before with my cousins, but I'd never actually sat down and watched one. And I don't remember the specific segment, but it was Triple H and The Rock, and it was a back and forth. And I just remember thinking, if I could say half of this crap to the people at school, I would be feared. At least that's what was in my mind at the time, So I went back to school, and this girl had invited everyone, because back then there was no dancing, it was sit-down dinners. This girl had invited everyone but me to her after 6th grade graduation sit-down dinner thing. And her mother donated a lot of money to school. Long story short, I was the only one she didn't invite. Probably because all the boys started paying attention to me suddenly, because I grew a large chest and I was wearing pro wrestling t-shirts.
Right.
And they wanted to talk to me about pro wrestling, and suddenly their boyfriends wanted to talk to me about wrestling. So, I mean, and then from there, when she called me a bitch, and I cut a promo on her, and I more or less said, The Rock says I'm going to lay the smackdown on your Rudy Poo Candy ass. And I was asked to leave the school.
Really?
I was kicked out. I was asked to leave or apologize.
Which school was this?
Keswick Christian.
Keswick. Yeah, I've heard of Keswick, and I mean, I've never been there before, but that's kind of interesting. They didn't have any school dances. It was all just...
No. Northside Christian was the same way. No school dancing. They don't believe in dancing, gambling, drinking, none of that. They're still like that, from what I understand.
That sounds like the plot of Footloose. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy that there's still places like that today.
Christian, to this day, is a brainwashing academy.
Really?
They have people there that are in power right now whose names I won't get into.
Right.
But they, if you do not believe exactly what they believe, you are ostracized and you are immediately... something's tagged to you. Like, one teacher tried to say that I was learning impaired and would never make it past a certain grade, and they wanted to put me in special needs classes.
Wow.
Well, as someone who graduated from Eckerd College with 2 degrees, obviously I was not special needs.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean...
Really? But I mean, that's how they put you into categories over there, and it's if you have money, if you attend their church.
Right.
It's a sad thing. And Northside Christian, I kept wearing my wrestling t-shirts to school, and I kept being told to go home, and I refused.
Did they have like a uniform or something, or?
When you were in high school, no. And that was my last year there, was my 9th grade year. And so I was wearing baggy jeans and wrestling t-shirts. I was wearing actually one of the first Hardy Boys t-shirts, the pink and white 2 Extreme shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
I was wearing that a lot.
That's crazy that they would make you go home for that, because it's not like
it had profanity on it.
Right, you didn't have the DX Suck It shirt on, I'm guessing.
Right? Not that my mom would have let me own that anyway at that time.
Yeah, that would have been a tough sell.
But, I mean, my mom was very supportive of it just because she saw it. She didn't admit it until right before she died, actually, in 2012. Yeah. But she's like, I'm so glad I let you be a wrestling fan, and finally embraced it and went to her first wrestling show, which was one of Eddie Guerrero's last here in Tampa, and we were sitting ringside. And Eddie had his kids in the ring, and she was like, now I know why you love this so much.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I had only gotten to meet your mom, maybe once or twice, but always, the times that I heard about her, she just seemed like a really cool person, a really supportive lady, and
she became such a huge wrestling fan. She was, I told her I needed to see the country, and she was like, well, you should just go to WrestleMania every year, and then you could see the country. Yeah,
I remember there were a few times that you flew out and...
Oh God, I've been to so many WrestleManias now I can't count.
That's amazing, but yeah, getting back to the Keswick and Northside Christian thing, and I mean, I've never been there, obviously, but it's it's just crazy that there's still a lot of stuff like that here in our country today. Because I mean, look, I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, and stuff like that, and I believe, but it's weird that there are particular, like, different sects of Christianity that still have that, like, that very extremist point of view, and are very, like, very strict in what they believe and that sort of thing. And look, everyone has a right to believe what they want to believe, but it's just, it's amazing some of the things that you'll hear.
My grandparents Kerstner disowned me when I was confirmed Catholic.
Really?
In fact, she straight up told me I was going to hell in 8th grade.
What? That's just crazy to me.
Straight up told me that. I was crying hysterically, and my mother had to come pick me up. Then it turned into, a war. I didn't speak to her for years. Then when my mother died, I reached out to her, and she wanted nothing to do with me.
Man, that sucks.
And, I made my choices, good, bad, or indifferent. I chose my mother, ultimately, and it was ultimately the best choice to make, because she took care of me, I took care of her.
Yeah.
And that's how family should be.
Absolutely.
So, also learn who your true friends are in that moment, and who your true family is. And right now I have someone in my roommate, Darlene, who is like a second mother to me, who is taking care of me. She doesn't have to do these things.
Absolutely.
She does it because she's a good person.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think like I had heard a friend of mine say something to this effect, and he's like, there's a difference between relatives and family. Is that you can't necessarily choose who your relatives are. And I think in certain cases you can sort of choose who you want to be part of your quote unquote family. And it sounds like you have that connection with Darlene, your roommate, and everything. So that's a great thing.
Her husband actually is good friends with Greg the Hammer Valentine, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah?
actually wearing his necklace right now, Hammer's necklace.
Nice. Well, I mean, going back to when you were in school, I still can't believe they kicked you out just for having words with this girl. Was it like you were using foul language? They had to.
No. I mean, it was, I said Rudy Poo Candy ass. Ass would have been the worst thing I said.
Right.
And, her grandmother being a huge benefactor to the school, it was, you can stay and get kicked out, or you can leave on your own accord.
So it was basically, a politic move.
Yeah. And basically the same thing happened at Northside Christian.
Gotcha.
Only with the headmaster's daughter and my t-shirts and her not liking wrestling, and that her boyfriend at the time was talking to me about wrestling, and she went to her dad and said I was wearing a naughty shirt, and my Hardy Boy shirt apparently was extremely naughty.
Right.
And,
I mean, it's kind of laughable looking back on it, because it's like...
It is. It's like, really?
And not only that catchphrase, too, Rudy Poo Candy, like, first of all, that's the thing about Dwayne. Like, he can say just about anything, because he delivers it with such confidence, but when you think about it, like, what the hell is a Rudy Poo? Like, what?
I always wondered that, too.
Like, he just...
Spearwell Boulevard and Jabroni Drive, that kind of made sense.
He's just one of those guys where it's like he could say, like, some... Really, when you think about it, is some pretty corny stuff, but, like, he just has that confidence and just has that delivery, and, like, I remember Jericho saying something about, like, David Lee Roth.
Oh, don't started.
Oh, yeah, saying so. It was like, life ain't nothing but it's something, blah, 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 and a kick in the pants, so let's dance. And you're like, all right, yeah. Wait a minute, what?
Or the day he read, like, the 1,000 holds in WCW, and it just kept, armbar.
Right.
And I actually got the t-shirt off ProWrestlingTees.com that says armbar.
That's just like one of the classic bits of all time, the 1,004 holds. I love it.
For me, it's still, like, God help me, it's still all about Chris Jericho.
Yeah, well...
I miss him terribly. I love Fozzy, but, I mean, the fact that he's only working house shows here and there, it's like, come on, man.
Do you like his podcast?
I do. I love it.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm also, like, most people would be embarrassed to admit this, but I'm also a member of Vince Russo's.
Really?
Yeah. Just because Vince was always very good to me at TNA, and he got a lot of flack for a lot of stuff that he didn't do, and he was always good to me. He actually was the one who put me into segments in TNA.
That's right.
I can say I was always on TNA, and it was because Vince was like, hey, get in there, girl.
That's awesome. So, I mean, obviously, we had known each other all through high school, and just, been fans and just been, kind of connected on that level.
Yeah, I remember going to the sports bar with you and watching pay-per-views.
Oh yeah, we would go there all the time, which says a lot about my girlfriend at the time, because she was like, "Yeah, cool, go."
She knew that, like, we were watching wrestling.
Right. So
it wasn't,
That's always the funny thing. So it's like it wasn't like a date or anything. We were just going out there just to hang out and watch some wrestling. So
yeah.
But it's funny how that works. But I remember after high school, I think when you were in college, was that when you first started going to TNA shows?
Yes. Basically, I had heard they were coming to Orlando from their home base in Tennessee. And I was like, well, I have no idea who any of these people are. But sounds like a good time. It's at Universal. At the time, I was friends with a girl named Megan, and she had a friend who looked similar to us, who had a annual pass. We took the annual pass, and I went in first, and then I slipped the pass to Megan, and Megan came in right behind me. And, we got in line, and we went in, and we ended up, this was when it was on Fox Sports Net.
Right, yeah, I remember watching the show when it was on Fox Sports Net.
And they had the 10-minute time limits and, craziness. And I remember just going, oh my God, I love this so much. And it was because it was guys that were just working their butts off to put on the best show possible for all of, I think maybe at that time we had 150 people in the building.
Yeah.
And here's Jarrell Clark doing, his amazing, I forget his move now. I want to say it was a 360-degree splash. Mr. 360, yeah, Jarrell Clark.
Right. I mean, and that must have been exciting because it's like, you knew, I mean, even though it was still like a startup company, you knew it was like on the verge of something that it had the potential to keep growing. And I mean, there were a few
when I saw AJ Styles for the first time in person.
Oh yeah, I mean
I'd seen him on screen before, but in person, wow.
Oh yeah, he's still great. He's still incredible. And but I mean, even with TNA in the early days, you still had some older guys, Jeff Jarrett, obviously. Some guys left over from WCW and everything that would be there in the early days, but still, you got that sense that it was building towards something and that you were sort of the start of something. It must have been really exciting to be there.
It was, and when Jeff left the company later, for me, it broke my heart. Yeah. I literally felt like I'd been torn in two, like my baby had just died. Now, I knew the company was not going in a good direction, but for me, it was like, okay, my baby's dead.
Yeah, because he and his father, they founded the company.
Yeah.
Even though they don't own it. Even though they don't own it anymore.
And AJ was so dedicated to TNA, I can't begin to tell you. I know he said in shoot interviews, but I don't think people really get the extent to which AJ was dedicated to TNA. And Dixie was not willing to budge on anything with him, and he's got a wife, he's got children, and his wife's a school teacher. Her name is Wendy. She's a wonderful person. I met her. I had the honor of meeting her many times. I had the honor of meeting his kids a few times. That man is a Christian and a class act. Women would come up to him in bars and he'd be like, hey, you want to see a picture of my wife?
Yeah,
that's how awesome he was.
And by all accounts, he always seemed like a really good person.
He was. And I can't speak for who he is right this second, but when I knew him, he was probably the best guy there as far as, I'm married and no, you can't have me.
Right. And yeah, that's one of those things, he was the TNA guy for the longest time. He was their John Cena. He was their main guy. And
that's why when Jeff left and then AJ left, I was in tears, and I was like, that's it.
Right.
I don't even know if I can watch this show anymore. I still watch it for James Storm and Abyss, because they both were actually really kind to me the whole time I was there, and I love them both very much. I don't know how well they remember me at this point. I've spoken to James a few times, but...
Well, I know James is leaving the company, though.
Yeah, and for good reason, from what I understand.
Right.
He was given the heavyweight title for, 2 days, and then taken away from him?
Yeah. I don't know if he had gotten it back since. I know he had, brief...
It was, and for a guy who starts with your company, and he's one of the last ones there, and you won't give him the world title, and the crowd erupted when he won.
Yeah.
I think I watched that thing back 50, 60 times on YouTube, crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
Only to find out that the next taping they took the belt from him.
Yeah, it's one of those things you want to see guys like that who have put in all that work. You want to see their efforts validated, and it's almost to give him the belt for 2 days and then take it away. Somehow that's almost worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt so sad for him because he was so happy, and
Because it's just kind of like almost like a backhanded compliment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't know who booked that, but that was just... It was awful.
Gotcha. But what were some of your favorite parts of working there? I know you said you did work with Vince Russo and you were in a few segments. What were some of the segments that you were in?
One segment I was in was when Kurt Angle, the very first one was when Kurt Angle lost. His clothes had been stolen.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right. I remember that. He was
Speedo, and he'd just gotten out of the tanning booth.
Yeah, he was like walking around in his underwear or a Speedo or something.
And he stops me, and he goes, "Hey, have you seen my clothes?" or something to that extent. And I just and Vince Russo told me, "Listen, I just want you to shake your head no, and then look back down at your papers and walk away." I go,
I remember he ad-libbed something. I was like, "What? You've never seen a guy in his underwear before? Come on."
Yeah! And I was like, "Oh, jeez, I'm not going to live this down." But yeah, and it was just a matter of, okay, who hasn't been on TV yet that's a chick around here? Oh, wait, there's nobody.
Right.
Because at that point, Jessie Ward had left, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not quite sure. She might have been on the B team. There was an A team and a B team for pre-tape.
Was she a producer as well?
Yes.
Okay.
At that point, I was a production assistant.
Right.
I was still doing... how I got the job was actually MySpace.
Really?
Yes. I was a big fan of David Sahadi, all of his work.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to read you something really quick. It'll only take a second.
Okay.
It was from WrestleMania 20. And this is what made me pick my major in college. And I actually wrote this to David Sahadi on MySpace. And I said, this meant so much to me. And I wasn't asking for a job. I just said, this meant so much to me. This is why I'm choosing to be a creative writing major, because I want to write and I want to produce and I'm going to do video and I want to be the next David Sahadi. I want to make people feel it the way you did. And what he wrote was, we are all mortals. Our bodies, though strong, can't defy time. One day we will die. What matters most is the legacy we leave behind. Did we become all that we are capable of becoming? Did we make the difference we came here to make? Did we pursue our dreams when all around us thought we were chasing illusions? Only those who dare to rise are able to lift themselves above horizons. Only those bold enough to chase dreams are the ones who catch them.
Wow, that's a beautiful quote.
It is, and he wrote that as the promo for WrestleMania 20.
Wow.
And it grabbed me, and I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. Only those bold enough to chase dreams are the ones who catch them. And I'm going to catch it.
That's an inspiring quote.
And if I die tomorrow, I can say, I worked in the business. I worked with an Emmy Award-winning director. I worked with Vince Russo. I worked with Jim Cornette. I worked with Dutch Mantell. I worked with Jeff Jarrett. I worked with Dusty Rhodes, Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
I can say I did it all. I did it with class. I mean, I didn't like fangirl or rap, a lot. I remember Bubba and Devon when they first met me thought I was rap.
Yeah.
And that's not their fault.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's no way they would have known
at the time
anything about you.
There's only 2 girls backstage that were knockouts. And that was Jessie Ward, who was one of the producers, who was actually on the first season of Tough Enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember her offhand. I mean, I'm sure if I saw her, I would know who she was.
If you look her up on Wikipedia, she's on there. David actually trained her. They felt bad for her because she had a heart condition, had to drop out.
Oh, wow.
And trained her, and she became a producer for SmackDown for a number of years.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's how David knew her and brought her to TNA.
Okay. Now, for those not familiar with David Sahadi, he was a director he worked for WWE, then later transitioned to TNA?
Yes. He wrote the original opening to Monday Night Raw with the fire and the helicopters and all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, that Attitude Era,
Watched the music video for The Kings by Run DMC, which was like the Nouveau DX, the McMahon Helmsley era DX. You'll see at the bottom, director David Sahadi.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I always loved that opening for Raw during the Edge. It was like, it's a lot and a not and a join the beast. No, whatever that song was.
Basically, all of the promos for the pay-per-views that like sounded really elegant or made you feel, David wrote.
Very cool.
That's what he was responsible for. Like the opening to TNA Victory Road 2004, when I was in the audience for that. Our very first pay-per-view, and I saw the opening video. I go, Sahadi's here. And the people around me were like, who? I go, David Sahadi is here.
Yeah.
And like, nobody knew who I was talking about. And he's like the unsung hero of wrestling, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's one of those things. Being a fan myself, I hadn't even heard the guy's name until, like, you were talking about him. I'm like, who's this dude, David Sahadi? And then you explained to me. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's who used to make me feel it, you know?
Very cool. So, and you're still in touch with him to this day?
I get to talk to him occasionally on Facebook. He's so busy.
Is he still working for TNA?
Yes, but he doesn't really come to Orlando or go out and about like he used to.
Oh, okay. Is he based in Nashville?
Nashville.
Okay.
I know he helped them set up the new their new production facilities, their pre-tape facilities that they're mostly trying to do out of there, color commentary from there.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. And of course, having someone that's won an Emmy like he has, that's somebody to have on your side.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool that he at least still has the job there. Whatever you think about TNA's product now, but it sounded like you had a lot of really good times while you were there working for Russo and Dutch Mantel and all these just legendary names. And I remember you telling me that the guys from Team 3D, even though they thought you were like some kind of ring rat at first, because they didn't know you from whoever it was, but they ended up becoming really good friends of yours at the time, right?
Oh yeah, they just walked right up to me, and at first they just kind of stared me down, and I held my ground, and I think that impressed Bubba to a certain extent, that I was just like standing there looking him right in the eye,
mm-hmm.
And then he just said, "Who the hell are you?" And I said, my name's Jennifer Kerstner, and I'm your new production assistant. And I stuck my hand out to shake his hand.
Yeah, you were professional, and
he goes, "Do you know who I am?" I go, "Of course I know who you are." I go, "You're the most legendary tag team of all time."
Was he like cutting a Bully Ray promo on you right there? That's funny.
He was getting ready to, I think. But then when I said that, he goes, I go, "I can name every company you've ever been in. I can name times you've won titles." I was like, "What?" I go, "Anything you need." And he goes, "Okay."
Okay then.
And and Devon was always really sweet too.
Right.
Like from the get-go. They're both actually big sweethearts. They get a bad rap for being like these backstage bully people. I never had that experience with them.
Well, I could kind of see that with Bully Ray, with Bubba, because he's one of those rough around the edges kind of guys. But I don't think he's a bad dude, but I can see how some people would like, because he's an intense guy, I'm sure, like on screen and off.
The wrong way by somebody.
Right.
Personalities clash. Not everybody gets along.
Right.
But honestly, the whole time I was there, TNA was very much a family. And it was very, the production crew sat and ate their lunch with talent. When lunch got there, nobody would snub their nose at anybody else. I remember, we'd go to eat at the ale house after shows, and this was before I worked there.
Right.
And AJ Styles would come sit down next to me and a couple of my friends and be like, "How was my match? What'd you think of it? Is there something I could have done better?"
That's pretty awesome to have that level of approachability.
Like, wow. Because he knew we were always there. I drove through hurricanes to go to those shows. I never missed a show from the show's inception until the end of 2009 when my mom started getting sick again.
Right. I remember you would drive there. You were still living in Tampa, St. Pete, and just driving there every week. I was
living at Eckerd College and in St. Pete and in Seminole with my mom. And I was driving back and forth to Orlando. I had planned my entire college schedule around being able to go to Orlando. I was writing papers at 5 a.m. after I'd got back from Orlando.
It's crazy.
Turn in at an 8:30 in the morning class.
That's great. And no one can say that you're not dedicated. And I think, and I think that's one of those things, especially if it's like a small organization, like TNA was. I think it helps that, it's one of those really cool stories because it's like if you're dedicated enough and if you play your cards right, eventually you can kind of find your way in somehow. And that's what you did. Through the MySpace thing with Sahadi and...
Yeah, and I didn't ask for anything from him. He sent me a message back saying, would you like an internship as a production assistant? We could really use someone. You're here every week anyway.
That's the crazy thing about...
Like, awesome. He put his, he could have messed up and I could have been like a terribly awful person.
Right.
But I wasn't, and he trusted that I wasn't. And I felt very blessed. And he is just a lovable, huggable guy, too. Just like Dusty Rhodes was. Lovable.
Oh, very cool. I would have loved to meet Dusty Rhodes. He just seemed like a really cool person. Everything I hear about him sounds like he was.
Very sweet, very approachable. He'd always come by and say, hey, sweetie. And put his arm around me and be like, how you doing there, good looking?
Hey, sweet thing. How you doing, Jennifer? Come over here, baby.
Yeah, they'd have, like, little meetings at the hotel bar, like, to go over creative for the next day, and it would be him and Dutch and a few other people. And sometimes Vince Russo was there, sometimes he wasn't. Because at that point, he really was a Christian guy.
Mm-hmm.
He wore his cross, he wasn't cursing backstage. He was legit.
Gotcha. I'll be the first to admit I don't really agree with a lot of stuff that Russo says, or that some of his ideas get a little crazy, and
they do.
Again, I don't know the guy personally though, so
he was blamed for a lot of stuff though at TNA, especially while I was there. They would chant "Fire Russo," and it wasn't even a segment he wrote or booked.
Right.
In most cases, it was actually Dutch.
Oh, I could see that.
And given it's a booking team,
right.
But to be honest, that dynamic didn't work. And that's why Jim Cornette left, because booking team didn't work.
Oh, yeah, no, I've...
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the venomous death threats.
Oh, yeah, well, if knowing Cornette, he's so level-headed.
Yeah, he was always nice to me.
I believe it. I'm sure he was, but he's just one of those guys. He just seems like he takes the business like so much more seriously than he should. I'm not saying it's a bad thing not to be passionate about it or not to take it seriously, but it's just like he's just one of those dudes where it's just like he doesn't seem like the most reasonable guy.
No, everyone I think kind of did their best to keep him and Russo on like separate squads.
That's probably for the best because Cornette.
They were there.
Cornette's a maniac. Like I've heard his interviews and everything. He's just like he's that guy 24/7.
I found interesting was Dutch when he was over there would say like he would curse Stephanie McMahon's name.
Really?
Yeah, like, I remember one time he went off, he told weird stories all the time about gophers and stuff that nobody really understood. And, like, we just kind of, like, were like, alright, Dutch, that's funny, yeah. Nobody really knew what he was talking about, but that's part of the fun of Dutch Man Talk.
You just get, like, that, it's like that scene in Blazing Saddles. Like, that is some authentic frontier gibberish.
Oh, yes. And that's why when I saw him debut as Zeb Coulter doing this un-American thing, I was like, oh, that's going to get over. Because Dutch can work a mic.
Yeah, he can. He's a great promo.
And it's sad to see that kind of went to shit, but Dutch...
Right, like it almost seemed like he and Swagger...
Ever worked for Stephanie McMahon, and I'm paraphrasing, because obviously I can't remember the direct quote, that he would rather, like, shove pencils in his eardrums or kill himself or, like, do something horrendous to himself before he would ever work for that stupid bitch. And I mean, he went off on a tangent and then followed it up with something about a gopher.
Wow. Well,
and I was like, I wasn't sure whether to take it seriously or not. Everybody was standing around looking at one another like, did that really just happen?
Well, I mean, I guess obviously something changed, and obviously they mended that fence since then, because he went on to work as Zev Coulter, and it almost seemed like he and Jack Swagger had like a babyface run like in them that they were getting ready to do, but that got pulled for whatever reason, and Swagger hasn't really recovered.
No, he hasn't. I think he got injured again.
Yeah.
Was what I had heard. I was never a huge fan of his just because I felt like he was like trying to be Kurt Angle. And it's like, you can't be Kurt Angle, you need to be you.
Right. He's a talented guy. I mean, he's a good athlete, but he just does not...
He's not connecting.
He just doesn't have good mic skills. He doesn't really have that kind of personality.
And I think that's why they put Dutch with him.
Right.
And it's kind of like Brock. Like, poor dude can't cut a promo to save his life.
Right. But you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing to put like a manager or a mouthpiece with a guy.
No,
I mean, it happened. I mean, I wish they would do more of that with some of the guys on there, because it's like it worked back in the day. It's a time-honored thing. They should bring that back.
That it still works.
Right.
And yet we're not doing it, and it's extremely. I remember when I went to Mick Foley's. He recently did a comedy club thing at Side Splitters. And he kind of talked a little bit about what was disheartening to him about wrestling. And one of the things was, we don't see any managers anymore. It's either like good-looking chicks or Paul Heyman.
Right.
Those are choices. And
he's right.
Yeah, and that's sad. And he was really cool to me because I just had 2 teeth taken out. Mm-hmm. I'm in the middle of periodontal surgery.
Right.
And I stuck my tongue through the same 2 teeth he'd been missing. And I had my Wanted Dead shirt on. And he made me a Mr. Sacco. He drew me a Mr. Sacco and wrote "To Jen, Love Mick Foley."
Gotcha.
And autographed a Hall of Fame picture for me that, I didn't even pay money for. And then
Mick just seems like a really cool dude.
I was able to see Jay Lethal back there. Jay Lethal was there.
Oh, man.
Hey, he remembered me, and it was like, all right, cool.
He's one of my favorite performers. The Black Machismo stuff was hysterical. Hysterically funny.
It was. I think it went on too long.
Probably. I think they definitely got as much out of it as they could. And, I also loved when he did the thing with Flair, where it was like dueling natures. That was great.
I think that was one of the greatest things they did after I was long gone.
Right. Now,
he actually did the Nature Boy impression at Side Splitters Comedy Club in Tampa.
Lethal did?
Hysterical. Everyone was just laughing their pants.
And he's the champ in Ring of Honor now.
I know.
That's cool. I'm happy for him.
It's so great to see a lot of the guys being successful in other areas, like AJ in New Japan with the Bullet Club, and I ordered Wrestle Kingdom 9. I'm watching New Japan. I'm watching anything I can get my hands on that's basically not WWE, because I got pissed off when, we're gonna, it was nice to see Taker. Mm-hmm. I do, I have a WWE Network subscription, I won't lie.
Yeah.
I do watch a lot of the older stuff, though.
NXT is a great show, though. I'm really a fan of it.
Especially NXT, I do watch, especially when Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen fight. Mm-hmm. I still call him that.
Right. Well, that is his real name.
I still call them, by their other names.
Right.
I still call Dean Ambrose John Moxley sometimes.
Right.
I remember seeing him wrestle for the FIP title, Seth Rollins, then Tyler Black, right in Tampa.
It is cool to see those guys where they are, though. Obviously they're both killing it.
Yeah. If you had to choose, though, as far as the leader of the new generation, obviously Roman Reigns is not ready. I think that's obvious to everyone. And I think that's why we got the swerve at the end of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But if you had to choose, do you think Seth Rollins was more ready or Dean Ambrose?
I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to tell. I think, they have like a real, like, genuine, like, star in Ambrose that they're not necessarily doing with him as much as I think they could be. I think they need to tweak his character a little bit. I don't think it helps that he's still wrestling in a wife beater and jeans. I think, they need to do something with his gear a little bit. The only other thing about Dean Ambrose is that they keep trying to shove that lunatic fringe nickname down our throats.
I like the Dean Unstable Ambrose, the original thing.
Right, like, well,
that's the T-shirt I have.
Here's the thing about, like, some of WWE's catchphrases, that, like, the lunatic fringe. Now, the word fringe is a plural.
Yeah. That
refers to a group of people. How can one guy be the lunatic fringe? Like, grammatically, it doesn't make sense.
I know. I've thought about that.
Say what? my wife just she just corrected me. She's like, Jesus is more than one person. He's 3 people. Which, you're right.
That does work it would work for Jesus, but I don't want to call him a lunatic.
Right. Well, it's like, well, no, I'm not saying that Jesus is a lunatic. I'm saying that Dean Ambrose, like, why does he have to be the lunatic fringe? Why can't he just be the lunatic, Dean Ambrose? Like, little stuff like that kind of, I mean, it's a minor gripe, but, like, stuff like that, it's like, I don't think some of these writers necessarily think of what they do, and it just, I can just tell by the way they talk about him on commentary. You just know it's like Vince and Kevin Dunn in their ears, like, don't call him just Dean Ambrose, call him the lunatic fringe Dean Ambrose.
Oh, yeah.
We gotta get that nickname over, damn it. Like, so...
If you're gonna get it over, I'm gonna kill you when you get backstage screaming in your ear.
It's, yeah, I've heard horror stories about that, which I don't get that approach at all, but whatever. I mean, he's Vince, he's gonna do what he's gonna do, but no, getting I don't even think I answered your question originally, but yeah, I like Ambrose. I think he could be one of the top baby faces. I think he could be one of the top heels if they wanted to push him that way. Rollins is great. I think he's gotten a lot better on the mic. I think his delivery still feels a little bit forced sometimes, just maybe because it's overly scripted. I think that if they just like kind of let him go a little bit, which I think they've done a better job of him doing that now, and he gets a lot of heat. And he's a great heel. Roman, I think, is obviously great physically, but I think they just need to tweak his character a little bit. Like
I think he could use the trip back down to NXT, to be honest. And I think there's a lot he could learn from Samoa Joe on how to be a big guy and how to work the mic, because Joe can do it.
Yeah, and not that Roman is bad on the mic. It's just I think maybe he's just trying to work with what he has or what he's been given.
They're so heavily scripted over there.
It is. I mean, you can spot it a mile away.
Now, I thought things would get a little bit better when I heard they hired Jimmy Jacobs as a writer.
Wasn't he a referee?
Yes. You're thinking Jimmy Corderas, maybe.
Oh, maybe I thought there was a referee, Jimmy Jacobs.
Jimmy Jacobs was in Ring of Honor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew I had heard that name somewhere.
Black's tag team partners, or Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting.
For a long time, the Age of the Fall. Yeah, I watched Ring of Honor too. I still do. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this new TNA, or I'm still calling it TNA. I'm sorry, Impact Wrestling. But the second Hogan and Bischoff got there, I went, oh, that's it.
I still keep up with it, and I think there are some good things about it that I still like. I think I guess it all depends on who is on the show that night. I mean, there's still a lot of guys on there who are doing a great job.
The girls steal the show, though.
They do. I mean, obviously they have a great women's roster, and I like it seems like the WWE is just now kind of starting to catch up with that, with a lot of the new women wrestlers on there, just the divas, whatever.
Yeah, I love Paige. I can't say enough about Paige.
Yeah. I mean, Paige is doing her thing. She seems like she's kind of a bitch, though.
Yeah, but you know what? I can handle that if you can carry yourself in the ring.
Right.
And I'd much rather see her than Nikki Bella in a ring.
I agree with that. I mean, I'm basing off, and again, I'm also basing off, what I see of her on Tough Enough and everything. But, yeah. She's playing a character, so it's...
Well, I think she's very passionate about the business, too, just because she grew up in it. Right. I don't know if you've gotten to watch the documentary about her family.
Right.
But it's actually very, very interesting. Or her interview that she did with Paul Heyman on his podcast on the network.
Interesting.
It's very, very good.
Well, I did see the podcast she did with Steve Austin. Is that who you're talking about?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the one I saw. I definitely pay attention to what's going on now. I mean, I think NXT is probably my favorite wrestling show right now.
Me too.
I still enjoy Impact, honestly, although I can't. It just seems like so many things are changing there. I can't help but think it just reminds me of the last year or so of WCW. And we all know how that turned out.
When I saw Jeff again, I was like, maybe Dixie's thinking of selling to him again. Because this wouldn't be this, Jeff's tried to buy the company back a few times.
I did love the last show they had where he had the GFW guys on there, and I really like sort of the approach he's taken with that company. It seems like he's got a pretty interesting plan in mind there. So I loved, I definitely loved that aspect of it, and I like it when they do cool stuff like that. I was glad to see Matt Hardy wrestle for the world title a week ago, and even though he didn't get it, I mean, I'm obviously, I'm a huge fan of the Hardy Boys, so I'm glad to see those guys work as long as they're not getting hurt, which they do get hurt sometimes, but. I like what they've done with EC3, formerly Derek Bateman of NXT. I think he's come such a long way, and I like that they're giving him the chance to kind of run with the ball a little bit. I think he's great at what he does. I love Rockstar Spud. I think he's that guy. I mean, that guy's a star. I mean, he's.
And who would have thought?
I can't say enough about that guy. Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of really good talent over there. It's just it seems like so many things are kind of changing. Like Drew Galloway, I like what they've done with him over there, although he's kind of cooled off a little bit.
Yeah. I think they don't stick with one thing long enough.
Yeah. I liked...
oh my god, it's not over, so oh my god, we have to change it really fast. And...
Yeah, like Bobby Lashley was on there, earlier this week, and I was like, wait, where's he been? They gave him the strap a while ago, and he was great in that role, and then he was just off for a little bit, and which I guess in a way that's nice because they don't shove the same 2 or 3 guys down your throat every week, which is refreshing. So they have different guys in and out, but sometimes it's a little inconsistent as well. So
yeah, my only other huge wrestling gripe, and I know it goes back a little bit, but was the ending of the streak.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I think it did a lot of great things for Brock.
But Brock didn't need a lot of great things done for him.
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of what got me. I was kind of like the guy in the audience with your jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Really? There's so many guys who needed to go over, and I thought the whole point of the business is you put the next guy over. Well, mm-hmm. Brock Lesnar was already the next big thing. He already had legions of fans. Somebody like Dean Ambrose needed that, or Seth Rollins needed
that. Or Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt could have had that. But no, we're going to give it to Brock because, he fought in the UFC, so he automatically gets it. That somehow legitimized that the Undertaker streak could end, but only because a real fighter did it. Well, now just called your promotion fake.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess Taker was okay with it, but from what I heard, the decision was made by Vince, that morning.
Yeah, that's the same thing I heard.
Or at least that was when he first told them. So I don't know. That seems like one of the things you would want to have planned out for a while.
You'd think.
So it almost seemed like, and again, unfortunately, it seems like they make a lot of decisions over there based on just hubris. Like, we can do this just because we can. Like the way
it's for you to go subscribe to our network.
The way they handled Sting was a disgrace, I thought.
Oh God, I was happy for him that he was at WrestleMania because I knew how much it meant to him, having worked with him.
Yeah.
Because I knew he'd wanted that moment. But then the way they handled his entrance, and then to give Triple H that grandiose Terminator entrance, and it was like, really? You just like basically like gave Sting like the little befuddled entrance and like.
And I don't even like the new music they gave for him. Like, why can't they use the theme from WCW? You know.
It's not like they don't own it.
Right. It's
the Sting situation was handled badly.
And he's like my favorite guy, like next to Hogan. Like, you know, like I put him up there, you know, for me, like on that level. For me, it's just he's incredible, and he deserved better than that, I thought.
Oh, I got to go out and buy his face paints. He'd forgotten them.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And he actually sent me to the store to buy his face paints, and I was like, oh my God, I just bought Sting's face paints. That's when I first got to TNA.
It's funny, like, as much as I'm a Kiss fan, like, I based part of my, like, on-stage persona slightly on him for a while. You could probably see it in some of the pictures I have on there.
It's really cool.
Yeah, but,
And I love that you named your band Vertebreaker.
I figured you would, and that was just one of those things I did not expect it to stick. I didn't expect it to be available to use, but, like I said, until I get like some sort of cease and desist letter from Shane Helms, I should be okay.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think he's flattered by stuff like that.
I hope so. You know, it's funny. Last time I ran into Jericho, he said that like he thought of the name. So I don't know. Take that for whatever you will.
I've heard that a couple times, that he was the one who thought of the name Vertebreaker.
Nice. I hope Chris at least listened to the CD. So you know, who knows.
I know, right?
But yeah, so you said you were with TNA from, you know, until 2009. Was your mom getting sick one of the reasons why you ended up leaving the company?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And my dad had left for a variety of reasons. He doesn't like illness, but we also found out later that he had a mistress.
Right.
And I had to take care of my mom. That had to become the priority. So, you know, I had to make a choice. I chose my mother. I don't regret that, but at the same time, wrestling still, well, it will always hold a huge place in my heart. But the original TNA is something like, I feel like I almost mourn on a daily basis. But when I saw Jeff Jarrett again on the show, I had hope. And I was like, if he can buy that company back and merge it with GFW, there's a chance.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that happen as a fan.
And I know I've put some feelers out there to say, hey, Jeff, you know, I'm available if you need some help.
That would be awesome if you managed to get, you know, to find a way back in. I know that would...
make me a very, very happy person. I'll tell you, I'd never worked for WWE.
Really?
After all the horror stories I heard from former employees while at TNA, I've heard that's like the worst place you can work ever. Like, they treat you like scum. Like, I don't know if you heard the story about Randy Orton, who the production assistant forgot his name, and so he took a shit in her bag.
I had heard about that. I didn't know if that's.
I heard it was a complete shoot, and the people sued the company.
I didn't know who he did that to, but just, you know, Orton seems just like seems like a complete mental case from what I've heard. So
TNA guys pulled pranks, but they were like cute ones,
right? Just
like,
ribs,
like horrible. Like, nobody ever treated anybody horrible. I mean, it was... I know that sounds... It sounds like I'm spinning like a fairy tale, but I'm really not. Like, I think I saw 2 people shoot up steroids the whole time I was there. And there are nobody currently with the company, and there are nobody currently with any company that I'm aware of. And I think I saw all of them naked at one time or another.
Really?
Yeah, because I'd have to go in the trailer because different guys would hide from me. Like Christian liked to hide in the laundry room.
Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't want to do his pre-tape first because he liked to memorize us.
Gotcha.
So it was like, but we had certain orders we had to go in for different reasons because each corner of the impact zone had a different set. Like the corner where the guests would actually come in was actually, it looked like the merchandise stand, but if you flipped that wall, it was a fake door leading into a fake office, and we'd just take the sticker of whoever's name was on there and then slap up another sticker. And for a while it was a star that said Christian Cage.
Yeah.
You know, and having him there was fun, but I mean, I won't lie, he was kind of a dick to me.
Really?
Which...
That's too bad. I always liked him.
Negative experience was, it was like, here's this guy I admired for so long. He's such a great wrestler. And like, when I was like, because, you know, they always wanted to go by their wrestling names. I go, excuse me, Christian. I knocked on the laundry room door and I knew he was in there. Sting told me he was in there. He pointed across the hallway at the laundry room. All the knockouts knew he was in there because their dressing room was right next to the laundry room. And they're all pointing at the laundry room door, but nobody wants to, like, get fingered for it. Mm. So, I knocked again, and I was like, if the door's locked and you're stuck in there, I'm going to have somebody come get the door unstuck, because we need you for your pre-tape. And I was very nice but firm. And...
That's too bad. Like I said, I've always liked him, and it's a shame to hear that sort of thing about him. But
you know who were the first two people who, if I needed something, I could go up to him and be like, "Hey, I need this." Devon Dudley.
Who?
And when they were together as a stable, Matt Bentley, Frank Kazarian, and Johnny DeMai.
Oh, okay.
I could go up to any of the three of them and be like, "Hey, guys, I need you." And they'd be like, okay, we'll go put on our face paint and our outfits, and we'll be right there.
That's cool.
And, you know...
I'm just laughing about you running into the locker room. I'm like, that would never work if I was like a dude working with the girls.
Well, the thing was I would...
Because if it was, I would apply for that job, by the way.
I would always knock first and be like, it's Jennifer, and some of them loosely called me the bitch, because I would make them do their work. But... It was like, in a funny way. Like, they'd come up, I had a couple of the guys come up behind me, and they'd hug me and give me a kiss on the cheek and be like, how's the bitch? I'm good.
Excellent.
It's like a negative thing. It was,
but just like a goofing around way.
Yeah. And, you know, I'd call some of them dick bags and stuff like that. It was not a mean...
Well, you definitely have the right temperament for the business, I will say that.
Yeah, you also have to know how to scream really loud in the impact zone, because when they'll be wrestling around while you're trying to do a pre-tape, and if you can't scream, shut up for 5 more minutes, I'm trying to do effing pre-tape, then, and sometimes they won't listen to you, and then you gotta, you know, stop everything you're doing, walk up to the ring and go, guys, seriously, fine.
So you had to babysit all these grown men.
Basically, it was... And I still believe this. Like, if I had to write a book about wrestling, I'd probably call it The Journey to Neverland.
Because they never grew up?
No, they don't. You don't grow up in wrestling. You stay on the mental level of you're going to be this superhero for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. You get guys who just, like, they start to live the gimmick after a while, and just, like, they start to believe, like, that's who they are, or that's who they're supposed to be in real life. It's like, dude... You know, you're playing a part. You're an actor as well. There's
some of the guys that, you know, were smart enough to leave TNA in 2009 that saw, like, the end is near. Like, they saw the warning signs and the rats started scattering, and people were like, okay, you know, if you're going to jump ship, now's the time, or if you're going to try out for somewhere else, now's the time. Some guys did it and were successful. Like, oh God. Well, he was not successful, but, oh jeez. Wildcat Chris Harris.
You mean Braden Walker?
Oh God, yeah. I felt bad for him. Like, oh man.
I don't even know what happened to that guy. I know he was on like ECW, the one night, and that was it.
That was it. And he terminated his TNA contract to go do that. And at that point, I think I don't know if he'd contacted TNA and tried to come back, but at that point, like, Beer Money was starting to come together. Like, Bob and James Storm were starting to hit their stride. And at that point, it was like, okay, why would we want Chris Harris back?
Right. I remember he came back like one night and did something with Matt Hardy, but that was it.
Yeah, he'd come back to be his tag team partner against James Storm and Bobby Roode.
Right.
I believe. But I know it had something to do with James Storm, and he had an eye patch, and it was like...
I will say one of the best things about that, sort of the Hogan Bischoff era, and unfortunately, I mean, at the time, he was going through some stuff, but I thought Jeff Hardy made an amazing heel champion.
He did.
I thought the promos he was cutting there were like some of the best of his career, but it's a shame because unfortunately he was pretty messed up in real life at the time as well.
He was pretty messed up the entire time I was there too.
Right.
I mean, it really, when I would see him, even as a fan in 2004, like at the first Victory Road taping, he'd come out after his matches to shake hands with fans, and his eyes would be pinpoints. And you could see track marks on his arms.
That's a shame. Well, and by the way, from what I hear, that's no longer the case with him. That he's good now, but
said that as well. And Sting.
I certainly hope that is the case.
I think becoming a father must have really changed things for him.
I hope so. I mean, I've always liked the Hardy Boys, both of them, and so I'm glad that I'm hoping that they're doing well now.
I really am too, because I know how, something I always said was, and I said it to Devon, was I've cheered you on, and I said it with tears in my eyes, and I'm about to tear up now. I am so sorry after Chris Benoit had passed. I cheered you on to a life of chronic pain. I cheered you on in those TLC matches where you were getting beat in the head. And I mean, Devon has scars all over his forehead.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am so sorry. And I'm like crying in front of this guy. And he just put his arm around me. He's like, it's the business. I go, no. You have to promise me you won't take any more chair shots to the head. And I'm like crying. And he's like, sweetie, it's the business. And then eventually, of course, they banned it.
It's one of those things. And I remember, Christina was watching it with me one night. The few times that she has, just kind of curiously poked her head in the room and checked and seeing what it is, and she was like, "It's like, don't you feel bad about cheering these guys? I mean, if they really are getting hurt?" Because I did explain to her, I'm like, yes, I realize that it's just a show. I realize that they're actors playing a part. But it also is physically very demanding on them. She's like, don't you feel bad about cheering these guys getting hurt? And honestly, it had to make me think about it a little bit. Because I mean, I don't want to see anybody getting hurt. I mean, I like to see a good show. I like to see these guys do their thing.
I never thought about it until I was working at TNA and I was friends with half this roster.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God. Every time they'd be in the ring, I'd be watching going, oh my God, that was just botched. Oh my God, is he okay? I'd find myself wanting to run to the ring to find out if Elix Skipper was okay after doing that crazy thing he did at Turning Point 2004, running across the top of the cage.
Oh, that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. That was amazing.
When they did the countdown of the most memorable moments in TNA Impact or Impact Wrestling history, that you noticed that was not a part of it.
Really? Because you think they didn't want to glorify the situation?
I don't think so at all. I know Dixie was not pleased with Elix having done that. But at the same time, Elix had practiced earlier. I know that. And
I was a big fan of his in WCW.
He actually took a sign home my friend and I had made for him. It was on black poster board, and we worked really hard on it. That's what we would do outside, all day from, 9 a.m. when the park opened, so we could be at the front of the line, to, showtime at, 7 or 8 p.m. We'd be making signs all day. And I remember I had the @ LX for Alex Shelley. And then we had the our primetime Elix Skipper in black and gold. And Elix loved it so much, he asked if he could take it home.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's framed, hanging in his house. And AJ actually has a sign we had made him in red and blue with like a silver glitter outline that said Phenomenal One. And to me, he was the original Superman punch, not Roman Reigns.
Right, yeah, and I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it's one of those things. I know you had to ended up leaving the business for personal reasons, and I'm hoping you do find a way back in, because I think if anyone deserves to be in there and deserves to be working behind the scenes, it's you, because I think you are not only a fan and knowledgeable, but you care about these guys, and you take a personal. You're personally invested in it, and I think that makes a difference. And I think there need to be more people like that in the business right now.
I think you have too many writers from soap operas, from what I understand, working for WWE that don't even know what wrestling is. Right.
Now, in defense of the creative team, I do have a friend of mine who is on the writing staff right now. I'm not going to name his name. I know he's definitely trying his best there, but it's also tough for because at the end of the day, Vince and Stephanie are going to do what they want to do, and it's their prerogative, it's their company, but it's got to be a little bit frustrating to stuff like that. But I know he's trying, and I definitely even hate to mention it to him, because I don't like to. I don't really like to even text him about stuff that happens at work, because I don't want to I don't want to tell him how to do his job. I also don't want to criticize him for stuff that he might not have had anything to do with or anything like that. And I don't want to post anything or say anything that would get him in trouble, because he's trying to do his job and everything. But I do see what you're saying. It's definitely a lot of different things in there that probably don't have to be in there. I definitely I know that since leaving the business, obviously you went through a lot of deeply personal stuff, and we don't have to get into that right now if you don't want. But I just want to ask you, as a friend, how are you doing now? How's your health? How is everything? How are you?
I'm more or less okay. I'm looking for a job. I just actually had to have 2 skin biopsies of moles that came back positive for cancer. And it was weird, because my mom had always told me, keep an eye on those moles, because you spent so much time out in the sun as a little kid. And if they ever change color or they change shape, I want you to go to the dermatologist. Well, I did it, and she was right, And so I had to have both of them cut out, and so we're waiting for the extreme biopsy results.
Gotcha. But so far the prognosis is good, or?
Yes and no. It's a weird type of cancer to get. My mom had it inside her body. Some people call it squamous cells. Other people call it squamous cell carcinoma. On the skin, it's more easily treatable. When it's inside you, she was only at the time one of 250 people to have it in her body. So they didn't know how to treat her. But it being on the outside of my body and me having the same one as my mom was whoa. That flipped me out a little bit. But otherwise, I'm doing pretty good. I've been covering my legs in tattoos for some reason.
Really?
I originally just had the one of the stuffed cow my mom was holding when she died with the halo above it. And then I ended up adding the X-Files logo above it, because I found out the X-Files was coming back on the anniversary of my mom's death. And that was our favorite show to watch together. And our favorite episode was All Things, and that had been a reoccurring thing for me. I'd been to jail at one point,
right.
And I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So All Things was a reoccurring theme in my life. And I remember seeing the tank top Shawn Michaels was wearing when he faced Triple H at SummerSlam back in the day. His first match back, and it said, Philippians 4:8. So All Things, it keeps being a recurring theme for me. So I had to put an X-Files font underneath that, All Things. And then I have I have a tattoo on my right leg that's Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
It's just the BR, the BA, and the Tread Lightly. Because after my grandma Kerstner said she didn't want to talk to me anymore because I was, the evil Catholic girl, I was like, well, if you don't know who I am, then perhaps your best course would be to tread lightly. I quoted Walter White to my grandmother.
Well,
No, I don't know. I didn't know. I was so, upset at the time that it was like, all right. And then I became a fan of Supernatural, and I got the demon warding symbol with I fear no evil above it.
Gotcha, man. That show has been on for a long time. It's in its 11th or 12th season right now, isn't it?
11th season this year, yeah.
That's crazy. That show has been on forever.
Yeah, and it has so many connections to the X-Files. It's crazy. Like Walter Skinner, who was on X-Files, he ended up playing their grandfather.
Oh, wow.
Alex Krycek, who was on X-Files, ended up playing Elliot Ness when they went back in time. It has a lot of, for some reason, and here's another weird thing. I don't know if in Canada they get, a Mark Sheppard tax credit, but he plays the Demon Crowley on Supernatural. He has been on Charmed, X-Files, name a sci-fi show he's been on it. Doctor Who.
I love the idea that this dude has his own tax credit.
It's the Mark Sheppard tax credit, and I'm starting to think I need the Mark Sheppard tattoo credit because do you think it might be Canadian law that this guy has to appear in your show? Yeah, I think it must be because I have the picture from Charmed on my inner right leg. And I only realized it because I was rewatching Charmed the other day, and it was like, oh my god, Mark A. Sheppard, what the hell?
Funny thing is, my wife and I, we've been watching Once Upon a Time, and that shoots up near Vancouver, and so I don't know, maybe I'll have to check and see if that dude has shown up in that show. Maybe he has, I don't know.
If she loves Once Upon a Time, does she like Captain Hook? There's a really cool tank top right now at Hot Topic that says, I'm Hook.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And then there's another tank top that's just on their website that says a hero is only as good as his villain.
Nice.
With the Once Upon a Time logo, and I got that one too.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. She likes Captain Hook. Her best friend is in love with him. So.
Yeah, they call themselves hookers.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. What else would you like?
Yeah. Right.
But I think
exactly.
I think sci-fi and wrestling kind of go hand in hand.
They really do, and I mean, definitely music especially as well. It's all entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, I have yet to meet a wrestling fan who isn't into one of the same shows I'm into.
Yeah. Well, it's it's all about booking, as they say.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if you know this. Rob Van Dam was on the X-Files.
I didn't know that, but that doesn't surprise me.
He was in an episode called Fight Club.
Nice.
And he's credited as Rob Van Dam.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. That's a little weird thing for me.
Oh, little tidbit. You learn stuff.
Yeah, you learn weird stuff. At first I didn't actually believe it was him, then I rewound the credits and saw Rob Van Dam.
Well, there you go.
Oh my god, it is him.
Too funny. Well, this has been awesome. I'm really glad that we've gotten to talk about this and just kind of catch up. And I'm glad that you're healthy right now. That you're hopefully whatever you end up doing as far as a job goes, whether that's in wrestling or not. That you're still a fan, and I would definitely love to have you on again, either just another one-on-one thing like this, or on one of those panel discussions that I have. Maybe we could do something for SummerSlam coming up. I know me and my buddy Corey and a few other guys who you may have heard on some of the reaction pieces.
Yes.
I think you would fit right in with that group.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to SummerSlam. That's one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. and I'm hoping it's going to live up to its usual expectation.
Definitely, it seems like they've got a pretty strong lineup so far. So we'll definitely have to get into that later. But yeah, definitely. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for coming on here. I'm glad we didn't get into too much of the heavy stuff. We kind of kept it light. I mean, anytime you need to talk about stuff like that or air your frustrations or whatever you want to do, I mean, you're always invited.
Jeff to get TNA back,
right?
And I want to merge with GFW, and I want Jeff to get his dream back because that was his baby, and Dixie more or less used Daddy's money to take it from him. And given I never had a bad run-in with Dixie Carter, she was a class act. She was always very sweet to me, but the second she became an on-screen character, from what I understand from the boys I still knew that were working there at the time, her whole attitude changed, and that's when Jeff went, oh my god. So,
well, there you go.
Hopefully things will change, and I look forward to talking about SummerSlam. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I don't know when and where we'll do that or how we'll do it, but I definitely have a panel of guys. I mean, Chad, obviously, so. But yeah, this has been great.
Chad, do you know Chad Radosovich?
The same.
Oh my god.
Go and listen to some of the reaction episodes. He's been on there.
But I didn't realize it was him for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was definitely being serious, and he's definitely being his usual funny self. But yeah, I mean, I've had him on a few times, and I need to have him on as like a one-on-one interview, just because he's a funny dude and a really interesting guy. But yep, same old Chad. I love him. But this has been awesome. Thank you for coming on, and yeah, I'll definitely have to have you on again. Any final thoughts, observations, anything you want to share before we sign off?
I know that there are a couple people coming down from up north that are friends of mine to visit soon. That are not currently in the business but have been in the business in the past that are going to be trying out for different things. And I can't say their names right now because I don't want to jinx them with any of the companies they're going to be trying out for. But I have to wish them the best because I know they'll get to listen to this.
Very cool.
And I have a feeling you know who one of the people may be. But
I mean, I have a theory on one or two of them, but
it was definitely a pleasure talking to you. Please tell your wife and your puppy I said hi.
Definitely. I'll have to introduce you to her one of these days.
I'll make a wrestling fan out of her yet.
Yeah.
To give you a little push.
I wouldn't hold your breath on that, but she loves me anyway. So what are you gonna do?
Aw, Jack.
But yeah, but this has been awesome. We'll definitely have to have you on again, and hopefully the teeth thing is kind of being fixed. Were you still putting up your GoFundMe for that, or?
Yeah, I'm still working on that. They want $40,000 to fix my teeth.
By the way, what happened with that?
It was Okay, I went to Clement Family Dentistry first, and they cut one of my two front teeth in half because they had their water gun turned up too high. Then they claimed I had periodontal disease, and they did this thing where they move your gums out a little bit and put this gel in it to heal it supposedly. And they ended up doing more harm than good. I'd only had one cavity up until I was 22 years old. And then Clement Family Dentistry touched my teeth, and within 2 years, my teeth had gone to hell in a handbasket. And there was nothing I could do about it. Because they kept telling me, go in for a cleaning, and my tooth would break off. So...
That's crazy.
Yeah, and luckily, it's in a position now where I'm not in any pain from my teeth.
Well,
because
good.
The nerves are dead.
I think.
So, if you live in the Tampa Bay area, do not go to Clement Family Dentistry.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first. I'm amazed that that they're even allowed to get away with that. If there are any lawyers listening to this, by the way, let's get in touch with Jen. Let's try and get to the bottom of this. Now, are you still looking for like some crowdfunding for donations for that?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm trying to work out something with my doctor, because he knew my grandfather, who was a prominent doctor in this area, and he knew my mother. So, he's trying to work out something with me. I brought him a new patient, and my roommate Darlene, she just had her teeth done by him, and she's really happy with the result. Okay. So, we're trying to find a way to work something out. Of course, Darlene's thing is like, you should get a grill. And I'm like, really? Like, right. She's a funny lady who is taking great care of me and her husband, too.
Yeah, the last thing you want to look like is, like Wiz Khalifa or something.
I know, right?
Or like Jared Leto's Joker or something like that. But yeah, no, hopefully you can get that whole situation fixed pretty soon, and definitely best of luck with that. So hopefully doing this podcast will kind of spread the word a little bit.
Thanks.
Come on, guys, let's help Jen out with this deal.
And anytime anybody wants to visit me on the web, on Facebook, they can. I'm sure you can post up a link to that eventually.
Absolutely.
I will answer any and all questions. I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book.
Well, there you go, guys. And I know I've said this before, but yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks again for coming on, and we will definitely be in touch.
All right. It's good to hear from you, Jack.
Thanks again to Jen Kerstner for coming on and kind of reconnecting with me and telling all these great stories about her time with TNA as a backstage producer, and even sharing some personal stuff about things that she had experienced after she stopped working at TNA, with losing her mom and a lot of other family drama and just a lot of other stuff. I'm glad we didn't get too deep into it, because that's sort of a personal thing, and she's definitely had a lot of adversity in her life and had some hard times over the last couple years, and I'm glad that she's at least coming out, or at least seems to be coming out on the other side of it. And she's a resilient person, and so she's really kind of getting her life together, and she seems to be in a much better place than she was a few years ago. So I'm very happy for her. I'm glad we got to reconnect, and what an amazing story. She became. She turned from being a fan of TNA to actually working for the company. It's incredible how her persistence sort of paid off like that. Make sure you go check out her blog at geekyischeeky.wordpress.com. I'll leave a link to it on the description. As far as some upcoming events that I have, my next show with Vertebreaker will be Saturday, September 5th at the Boondocks in Melbourne, which that's become sort of our home base. The Boondocks, really great club out there. We will be there. We will be sharing the stage for the first time with our friends Daredefy. We've known Steven from Daredefy for a while, and his band is still relatively new in the scene, but they are releasing their brand new single called Lovesick, and not only will we be there, but we'll also have Thought of Redemption. We'll have the band Inception from Orlando, and Acnu from Tampa Bay. Both those latter two bands have been together for a long time, and I know Thought of Redemption has been around for a while as well. So it's an all ages show. I think the cover charge is only maybe $5 at the door, and you get to hear a lot of really, really good bands. It's a pretty good deal if you ask me. So thank you guys for tuning in again. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at jackxconnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/jackconnormusic. Also, definitely check out the band at www.vertebreaker.net. That'll have a link to all our social media. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com or tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. And make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and go back and listen to all the other episodes. I've definitely got a lot more good episodes coming at you pretty soon, some of which I've recorded already, and they're just kind of waiting to be put out there. So definitely pay attention to that. Check out Jen's blog if you get the chance. I'm sure I will have her back on in some capacity. And thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.